Ladies and gentlemen, here we are. Season 2, Episode 4, with one of my favorite guys of all time, the legendary first original rock star accountant, Ian Faber. What's up, buddy?
Doing very well, my man. Thank you so much for having me on.
Of course, of course. And this is our first one with video. I opened this app today and I haven't been using it that long, and all of a sudden we got our ugly mugs on camera. So I don't know. This might be the first YouTube episode ever. I might have to put it out there.
Man, it's one of those. I should have probably cleaned myself up a little bit. Got my hair cut. Who knows when the last time that was with COVID times? But yeah, I should have cleaned myself up for this.
Hey, strong pandemic vibes for both of us. I got the quarter zip. I got my Seinfeld t-shirt on under this. The Human Fund, George Costanza. Great episode.
That's excellent.
It's all good, man. It's all good. Well, listen, buddy, it's a pleasure to have you on. For the listeners out there, Ian and I go back to early 2002. We're definitely going to kick it back to some of those stories back in the day when we were running around like maniacs around Center City, Philly, and elsewhere. But we got together at KPMG, and then you lasted longer than I did there. But then after a quick hop over at Ernst & Young, you pretty much went out on your own. And we're going to talk a lot about that and your journey through that time in your career and your life, which has become like an accidental theme of season 2 of the No Code podcast here. Almost everybody I'm talking to struck out at their own at some point and just decided to go for it.
It's been when I look back on it, it's been a wild ride. I sometimes I sit there and I pinch myself thinking, I can't believe this is reality. Quite honestly, that I did that, and there's so many levels. The emotions go from the all the way across the spectrum. Quite honestly, for something like that, and it was really cool. I've had a lot of fun with it, and it's definitely something it's one of the scariest decisions I ever made, and it's also one of the best. Quite honestly, I don't look back, and it's been a fun ride.
Yeah, man, we're gonna get deep into it, but first we got to address something here. And there's no joy in me addressing this, but I've been listening to sports talk radio all day in Philadelphia here. I'm trying to understand the state of our franchise of the Philadelphia Eagles, and you being a big Philadelphia sports fan, I got to bounce it off you. What the hell is happening here?
I had a feeling you were going to go there, and honestly, I'm kind of heartbroken. It is the utter definition of a management and organizational failure. What they've done and what they created in such a short time of being at that pinnacle and being the champions, the Super Bowl champions of the world, and that high that we were on, to be now 3 years later, QB, coach, sixth pick in the draft. Who knows? Carson Wentz. I was a huge fan. I mean, I had his jersey. My kids have his jersey. I loved him. I thought he was that guy who was going to take us to the next level there. And I feel bad. I think there's responsibility falls on so many levels with that when it comes to that, especially with football. But for him to, I'm kind of shocked. I still haven't heard anything that he's thank the fans or anything. I think it's always with the similar thing in Philadelphia with the vocal minority, that small population that love to just hate and everything, that tough Philly, the whole Philly sports fan that knows everything. But there's so many people that were there supporting him.
This Carson Wentz is a total bum out there. This Carson Wentz, he can't even throw it to anybody out there. He's throwing the ball high, interceptions. He's a bum. Get rid of him. Like Mike from Lansdale or something like that,
It's so classic, but I'm disappointed. I just feel bad. It's just and I don't know what bright spot we have. Kind of just I use the word exhausted by it. I think this year, not only obviously everything else that goes on, but with the football world, I'm exhausted by the conversation and how it just went. I mean, Jesus, we tied the Bengals. Like,
Yeah, we
come
did.
on.
We did. We love tying the Bengals. We always do it. We did it back with McNabb in '08. He tied the Bengals. We love tying them. Yeah,
And no
it's our thing.
disrespect to the Cincinnati fan base there. They got a good one in Joe Burrow and everything, but gosh, it was just like, come on, man. Like, geez. And yeah, so it's been a long one. It's hey, always bleed green and always be doing the fight song and
Yeah,
cheers and everything that way. But kind of feel like I'm just ready. Yeah, let's get to draft and training camp and all that fun stuff.
yeah. What else can we do? I mean, in 20 months, going from giving him this long-term contract to then, you draft Jalen Hurts, which made no sense. I mean, I hope he's good. I hope he's fantastic. I hope he wins us 10 Super Bowls. But you like put all this stuff on yourself as an organization. And then, of course, it blew up in your face. Like, where else was it going to go? You just set yourself up for this disaster.
It was totally self-inflicted. I like that's where when I go to that management epic fail there, the organizational fail. How you put all this investment in this guy, and he showed it. I mean, what he did the year before with a practice squad of wide receivers, and he showed he can do it. And then obviously it didn't go well, but to draft that quarterback in the second round when you needed guys to play, and it just that started it, and to then you pay this guy $150 million, and now we're going to take the largest cap hit in NFL history. Like it's just I've always been
I'll
a
tell you
Howie
what.
supporter, but it's running thin.
Yeah, it's kind of hard right now. I tell you what, Faber tax would never run that way. If you ever had to make a personnel move, being fire your own wife, you would never take that cap hit. You'd find a way to structure that contract a little bit better than that.
You always have to be a couple steps ahead of the game,
Yeah, that's right.
Absolutely.
That's right. All right. Well, enough Eagles talk. Let's get into this thing here. So I mentioned, it's January 2003, and I am a junior at Villanova University doing the accounting internship program. And I, first round through in interviews, they come onto campus, all the big shops come talk to you, and I didn't get any offers. I got shut out, and I go back to that, and I think the problem was I had a really bad cold that week, so I probably showed up to the interviews like, "Hey, how you doing? It's me, Tony." Like I couldn't even, I could barely breathe. I couldn't talk. They probably thought I had the COVIDs even back then, but I kind of struck out the first round, but then they said, let's hunt for you a little further. And they found this group called International Executive Services at KPMG. And I think you and a group of a couple others were the first people I interviewed with. And actually, when I was doing that interview, I had a cast on my leg because I had just had ankle surgery. And if you remember, you guys had to help me with like all my stuff, like my backpack and notebook and all that. I'm like
I think we
dropping
helped
stuff
you.
around the office.
We helped you down the steps after everything. Yep, I can remember that
Yeah,
absolutely.
exactly. So I got the
I came
sympathy
back and
hire
said,
because they're like, well, this
I've done a lot
poor.
of work here. We got to keep him. He's got to be signed on."
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So you guys brought me on, and that's when I had my first experiences with the business world. And we had a nice crew. It wasn't a big group. I guess that group was maybe at about 10 people altogether, I think,
Yeah, right
when you
around there.
counted
Yep,
like staff
absolutely.
and managers and partners and all that.
Hmm.
Yeah. So kind of a small group, and but a tight knit group, and we had a great intern class of me, a guy by the name of George Crombar, and another
Uh huh.
gentleman by the name of Pat McGettigan, and Pat was a St. Joe's guy, right?
Correct. Yeah, I knew Pat. I kind of
Yeah. I think
initiated that, got him into the program there and everything. And yeah, he was a St. Joe's
yeah,
guy, and yeah, it was a really good group. I was so excited for you guys.
yeah. And
It's
George,
funny.
who I haven't seen in a while, but I kind of still keep. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, it was really funny because the group there I had started with KPMG, and I I took that road. I always like to call it the road less traveled. A lot of people go in and they take that audit rotation and they go through and they do their three months. And going through that internship program, I had the same. It was the same kind of thing. I had the opportunity to interview with KPMG, and they were like, "Oh, we had this expat, group," and I was like, "Expat? What is that?" And went down and it was had a great conversations and that allure of expat international. I was like, let's give it a go. Let's give it a try. And so I said it's 3 months. If I don't like it, I don't like it. And I started with KPMG within that group. I held out waiting for my final offer. They gave me an audit offer after everything. I was like, oh no, I don't want that. It's got to be expat. That's the only way I roll. And it worked. I started on, and then I'd been there full time just over. I mean, I'd been with the group there for probably 2 years at that point, and full time probably just under a year at that point. And the group was, mainly women, quite honestly, and it was really fun to sit there and having that group of three guys coming in. It was Dan and Dan Cobell, that were there, and we were super excited having this group come in, and bunch of young bucks just ready to learn and ready to work hard. And it was really, and I obviously knowing Pat, it was a great relationship there, and just where we were at that point in time, and the group, it turned into a lot of fun and some really great bonds and some great fun times through that process.
Yeah, for sure. So I got to tell a quick story though about the intern. So George and I, we met at the internship program, and then we wound up living together in Conshohocken in our tiny row house. And I got to meet all George's crazy friends from the Northeast, and we had a lot of misadventures in Conshohocken, including our next door neighbor that we didn't really know his name, but we dubbed him Old Man Jenkins. And the guy was just hated us so much to the point where there was a physical altercation one night between one of George's friends and this guy that wound up in some mild charges in court. Not for me or George, but one of his buddies that was involved in it. And it wasn't anything serious. It was more like a citation thing, and everybody moved on. No lawsuits or injuries or anything like that. But George was in that, and then Pat was rowing crew for St. Joe's at the time, if you remember. And
absolutely,
that winter was like especially horrible. I could remember that, like, we would look out from our window at KPMG and like the Delaware River was frozen for like 3/4 of the winter, it seemed like, right? And that's when it's really cold. So he would go out, he'd be out there at like 5 a.m. Rowing before coming to the internship. And I don't want to call him out right now because like, he's a professional, he's a legit guy. Everybody I'm sure likes him in his professional career. But that dude would fall asleep at his seat pretty often. after he would pass out at his desk, and he was on the other side of the floor, so he'd get away with it. But we'd walk over there. Sometimes I'd be like, "Yo, Pat, you got to wake up, man." But we learned all the things you got to learn when you're young in the business.
It's so funny too because he was obviously very passionate about the crew and the rowing, and he was doing a lot of great stuff. And I had known him through my years at St. Joe's as well, and we had worked together with the chair of the department and the accounting department, a lot of great things. And when he was going through, he wanted to do the internship program, but he also wanted to do the crew. And I was like, well, hey man, it's not for the interns. It wasn't as bad or a pressure packed kind of program. It was kind of 8:30. Maybe 5:30, 6:30, maybe, and then you kind of could enjoy your time. It wasn't that those audit hours where you're 12, 13, 14 hours a day, and they're really grinding you down and traveling and all that kind of stuff. So he would be up and have be able to do his stuff on the lake and on the river there. And then he'd come in, and I think some days it took its toll a little bit.
Yeah, he had some nice little naps at the office sometimes. But we, one of my favorite stories from that time was, and I was 20, by the way, so I hadn't even turned 21 yet. I wouldn't turn 21 until June of that year. And but But I quickly realized with you and the rest of the gang that as long as I had business clothes on and we were going to a happy hour spot, I was going to be fine. It wasn't going to be an issue. So our first ever happy hour together that I remember was at the Independence Brew Pub, which is now known as the Field House, but I will always call it the Independence Brew Pub. And we go and I'm not kidding about this. I swear I'm not kidding. When people were telling me happy hour, I literally thought I had 1 hour. So I was like, I better drink as much as I can in 1 hour because then it's over. Then we have to go home, right? So we go out there and I'm just like, I'm in college. So I'm like, I got to get 5 or 6 down in an hour here. And then, an hour goes by and nobody's leaving. And, another hour goes by and another hour. And then it's just me, you, and our old buddy Anthony. And it's like 11:15. And the last train out to Villanova is coming. And you guys wanted to do one more shot. And I was like, well, might as well. I do it. I get on the train. And then it is night for Old Town on the R5, Thorndale Paoli out to Villanova. I mean, I was out cold. I missed the Villanova stop by 9 stops. I wound up in Malvern. And I needed to hitchhike back to Villanova with a man who wound up drinking Coors Lights in the car while he was driving me back to Villanova. And I was not murdered. I wasn't assaulted. I luckily got back to school at about 1:30 in the morning and, made it in the next morning. You guys were a little late though. I was on time. You guys were not in good shape the next morning.
No, we were not, and we those. It's funny that way, because you sit there and you think happy hour, and you'd have our group, and we'd start off with the group, and then a lot of people would after that hour or two, they were running to the SEPTA station and Suburban Station or whatever, catching that train home. They have families and kids, everything that way, and Anthony and I and whoever was with us, we would always like to extend that a little longer. A lot of times we were lucky enough the bosses that would say, "Hey, take care of it, keep it open, and have some fun with the boys." And we definitely took advantage, and we had a lot of fun and building those bonds. And I think one of the best parts of that story that you just told about your experience there is the next day when obviously you were in a little earlier than us, and by probably, I don't know, maybe it was like 1 or 2 in the afternoon at that point, the email pops up and you had told the story in an email and sent it to us. And I'll never forget sitting there reading this, and huge props to you as a writer, because it was brilliant. It was pure gold comedy stand up. It was incredible. And I think I can remember after reading it, like running over to your cube and just, are you serious? That's what happened? No, that's not true. And it was just your synopsis
Oh my
of the
gosh.
story made you feel like you were there. And it was so awesome, man.
Oh my gosh. It was yeah, I remember I wrote the whole thing up. I know we had it saved for a long time. I'm looking at my Gmails right now because I do have some ones back from like 2008, but I think it's gone. I think the story would have to be rewritten. Maybe I'll republish it in like a re-release with some bonus features.
You always have a backup plan there, T. Your author skills are legit. I can't wait till that memoir comes out because that's got to have a chapter right there.
That's right, man. That's right. That was a wild one, and there were some more wild ones back then too. But some of my favorites were when we would go out, and a lot of times we would quote put it to a client where you go have you got some team members on the client, you go have a couple of drinks, and you're working hard on this client, and at the end of the day there might be an expense report in there that reflects your hard work and your efforts. So we would do that, but then some nights we'd get real carried away. And I could remember you coming in the office a couple of times the next day being like, all right, we can only put through like 500 of this, like, because the bill would be like $1,500 or something like that. And you'd have to go around and collect money from everybody. And like, and then you're breaking down like who got cheap on us, who ponied up their fair share. There was one guy who'll remain nameless that used to like to give us like $8 when he came out, but he'd been there for like 3 hours and probably drank $100 worth of stuff.
I'll always.
But then the one.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I'll always remember the classic there was the next day seeing the receipt and thinking, okay, we can just run this through, and then seeing, I think it was maybe 12 or 15 Patron shots, and I'm like, oh no, who ordered 12 or 15 Patron shots? Did we really do that?
Oh
And
man.
yes, we did,
Oh
and
my
woo,
gosh.
that was that was.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
the
that one
guys,
was
I have to say, the guys never got any questions or anything like that. They took very good care of us.
no man. So that was, yeah, those were the wild times. But our, just to wrap this up, our main spot though, our main spot was Tiernanog in Philly on 16th and JFK. I mean, that was the spot. All these other things, we got into it some crazy times down at the brew pub, but Tiernanog was the tried and true. We'd go in there and spend a whole lot of time and a whole lot of money in that place. I used to joke that you should have had equity in that business at one point because I think you were about 15% of their annual revenue.
That place will always go down. I still, when I get down to Philadelphia, and whether it be meeting with a client or meeting with somebody, a contact down there, whenever I get a chance to go into the Nog, Tierna Nog, I always take advantage. They knew they knew business. They knew how to take care of their clientele, and they took great care of us. And we passed that back to them as well. But we always had such a good time. They were just such great people in there, and it was there was many of the nights. I'll never forget the one night we're hanging out in there, and just whatever. And I don't think it was like a Friday or Saturday or anything like that. This was like probably a Tuesday, and we're there late, and
Right.
my buddy Nick Daruba that next thing you know, it's like
Yeah.
I don't know, it's like 2:30 in the morning. He's doing one arm push ups on the floor there with people, trying to who can do the most. Next thing you know, it's like 3:30 in the morning, and we're like, oh my god, we're still here, and it was just bizarre. They took great care. Tuna Dog will always be so close to the heart. It's one of my favorite. It'll probably be my favorite bar of all time for the rest of my life.
I know one dude, and he wasn't kind of in our crew, but he was tangential to our crew, who would stay so long at Tiernanog, like after hours, like you're talking about, and he would just sometimes walk over to Hahnemann after that and just go get an IV, and then go to work, and not even change. Yeah, yeah. I mean, some nights I got carried away. He'd just like go over to Hahnemann, ask for an IV. They'd see he was visibly drunk, so they'd give it to him, and then he'd just go back to work and just get after it.
Hey,
That's
you
you
gotta
don't want to be there. That's the next level thing.
that's a little much. I obviously,
Yeah.
obviously we had a lot of fun, but we might be a little late in the morning getting there. But hey, you work hard, you gotta play hard too. So that's always, I think that's one of the biggest things there, and we definitely live that.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So anyway, like it always happens in life. I mean, those good times had to sort of wind down a little bit. You can't go at that rate for too many years. So I wind up leaving KPMG '05. I think you stuck there till about '08, from '07, '08, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere around there.
Correct. Yeah.
And
In between.
you know,
In between
yep.
there, I spent a year over in Zurich, Switzerland. I went on an assignment with them and
Oh,
did
that's right.
did that
Yeah,
thing. Yeah, yeah. So for
I almost forgot about
listeners
that.
who,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So for the listeners that don't know, so my specialty is expatriate taxation. With the IES and everything. So we specialize in an expatriate taxation. So if you're an American living abroad or a foreigner coming here to the U.S., I would step up and take care of your tax filing requirements and help you through that process, and keep you on the good side of the tax authorities. So I lived the life and went over to Zurich for an experience living over there, which was awesome. And yeah, it was so cool being over there and living that life of what my clients go through on a day to day basis was pretty cool and eye opening experience.
Yeah, I'm sure it was, and it came at a time where, obviously, I mean, we had email, but social media really wasn't huge yet. So I can remember, like, saying goodbye to you, and then, like, pretty much a year later, catching up with you and being like, "Oh, how was it?" Because it wasn't a thing where you're not exchanging text messages every day and Facebook messages, whatever. And but it was awesome to hear about it. I remember when you came back, I think we had kind of a big get together at the Nog with a bunch of people, if I'm not mistaken. I kind of remember that. And obviously that was a lot of fun. That's where you got to reunite after a year overseas. You come back to the Nog and you talk about your experience.
Exactly. Tony, it's so funny too when you sit there and say about how life has changed, and only that's So I went over. It was summer of 2005. So you're talking 15 years, and I'll never forget. Like, so, I was obviously still very early in my career at that point, and taking a step to go abroad, and doing those things. It wasn't one of these luxurious expat packages. It was one of those. Hey, you really want to go? Sounds good. We'll sign you off. You fly out in 6 weeks. Get over there. There's no look-see trip or anything. Figure out housing. We'll figure that stuff when you're on the ground and the whole nine yards. And I'll never forget. I take that flight out. It was Friday night flight over, and showing up at the Zurich airport on Saturday morning. It was probably about 6:30 in the morning. Pulling my luggage off, tired from the long flight, and my new boss at the time, was supposed to meet me in 2 days before. She was like, "Oh, I'm not probably not gonna be able to do that. Just catch a cab, and they'll take you to get the keys and then get you to the place." Of course, I walk out and I step off, and I grab the cab driver that doesn't speak any English, and it's now 7 in the morning on a Saturday in Zurich, trying to find where this rental management company is to grab my key. Couldn't get in the door. I'm hitting all the buzzers. I'm trying to talk to him. Finally get it. Get to. I'm sitting here saying I sat there and I got into my temporary housing, and I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing? What did I decide and sign up for? What kind of decision is this?
Wow.
I don't understand. I'm lost, all these things. And you sit there, and today with social media and Twitter and, all the connections that we have, like, you sat there and I was buying phone cards to make the phone calls from the pay phones down the road
That's
to
right.
call home, everything like that. So it's amazing how the world changes, and that experience, you sit there and you're like, man, I was scared at that point. And then you sit down and you look back, and it's like, wow, without that experience, who knows where I would have been. It was such a fun time, and that takes you out of that block and what your comfort zone is, and puts you into something different, and it really it opens your eyes to a lot of things.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. The comfort zone element of that, to totally shake that up and go into a brand new environment, and to have that fear and that discomfort and that, anxiety about, like, what am I going to do? What am I doing here? How am I going to do this? Once you get through that, and then I'm sure while you're there, you're appreciating it more and more as you go. It must have just been a really cool experience, and I'm sure a lot of lessons that you could kind of apply when you got back into the States and back to sort of the normal day to day you were living before that.
Absolutely. The just seeing the different way life was lived, and the way people handle things, and through that whole process, I mean, you just got a greater appreciation. I love the Swiss. The Swiss were incredible. They were kind of like, I wouldn't even call it work life balance. They were, they were there. They worked to live, not they didn't live to work. And they would sit there and they would be in early, and they'd work their time, and no joke. And then 5:30 they'd be gone and living their life, and doing those things. And it definitely an appreciation coming from the way the U.S. does it, Americans do it, and the hustle and bustle that I had started my career with, and the constant. It gave you a lot of appreciation that there's other ways to go about, and hey, I still hustle and work hard, but there's that extra, learning that and seeing that from a different perspective, really, it opened my eyes to a lot through that process, and it was a great life lesson, professionally and personally, to take that step. And I always sit there and when I talk to people and take that opportunity, go for it, do it, see something different, put yourself out there, and do those things, and it'll pay off in the long run by doing that and everything from that perspective.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, we've only got one shot at this thing, and you don't get a do-over. So if you get an opportunity and it's, it might be kind of scary, it might be unique, it might be a challenge, but if you think you can do well at it, jump and take the risk. I at times in my life and career, I've been too cautious, and I've had those kind of things, and I've kind of passed them up. But recently, I've been taking a different view at it and trying to get involved in some other things, and it usually works out. And even if you mess it up, you learn something. You pick up some kind of lesson that you can apply going forward.
I, I couldn't agree with you more. That you can't be afraid to make a mistake. I've learned that. You come up through and you start your career and you want to be perfect. You want to work hard. You want to do all those things, and it's all right there to do that. But to take that next step and you can't be afraid to make that mistake. And it's not always going to work. To perfection, to the storyline, to the script. You have to take those steps and
Right.
put yourself out there. Some things work, some things don't. I've taken those opportunities, and some have been have paid off and have been incredible. Others, not so much. It hasn't worked, and there's reasons why or whatnot, and you learn from them. That helps you on the next step, and that's one of the things. I mean, it's cool to go through that experience. And I always thought my father was one who had his career and his job his whole life at the same place, and I always wanted that. But when you get to those steps, you kind of you see the other opportunities and different steps you can take, and making those taking those jumps and taking those opportunities and seizing them. It really is it's a cool part of the process and the growing, and both professionally and personally, quite honestly.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And speaking of your dad, it wasn't long after you got back from Switzerland that he wound up passing, correct?
Yeah,
A couple
yeah,
years. I
yeah.
don't remember exactly when it was.
Yeah, so it was. So I was over in Zurich for about a year, and unfortunately, it was. So I left in July of 2005, and unfortunately, it was right after April 15th. It was like the May time frame, and I got that call late at night, and you know, family was my mom was hysterical on the phone, and dad's not doing too well, dad's not feeling too well, and everything. And yeah, it's one of those you felt helpless, and you're on the other side of the world or across the ocean, and it was scary process. And the guys, everyone was so great. I obviously hopped the flight back and dealt with everything. And so my dad, yeah, he lasted. It was so that was May, and unfortunately in November of that year he passed. He had
Yeah.
some. It was a throat cancer that got him. And one of the nice things through that process, the guys at KPMG helped me. I made the call that I wanted to come home and be there, and they facilitated that and got me back. And I got back, you know, July timeframe, somewhere around there, and I had a good 4 months with
Right.
my dad, and before everything, and it was really awesome. It was I'll never forget it. It was one of the really cool aspects of the KPMG experience from a personal level was they had the boxes at the Phillies games, and being a huge sports fan, to get to
Yeah.
go and do that was to be invited, and they'd have clients and everything, and it was just so cool being there. And that in I guess September at that point, my dad and I went down, and we had a nice evening with he met some of my clients, and we had a great time. We were the last ones there, just hanging out, and it was a really cool time. And a lot of that stuff. I mean, I always my dad was a huge part of my life and who I am, and he was always my go-to. I always remember the funny story. I would sit there and I'd clear everything with him, tell him everything, and any decision,
Right.
Dad, just give me the stamp of approval, kind of thing. And I'll never forget, I had the opportunity to when I was a senior in college, and I had done a lot of work with my professor. We co-wrote a paper, and did a lot of great stuff. And the paper was approved for a presentation in Paris. And my professor was going to go over and present, and he was like, Ian, you did a lot of work with me on this. Would you want to go with me? And I had never been outside. God, I probably had never been outside the East Coast. Maybe a couple trips to Florida or whatnot. And
Right. Right.
I remember him telling me, asking me, and I was like, okay, well, can I give you an answer tomorrow or whatnot? And I called my dad, and my dad, I ran it by him, and my dad's like, what are you thinking about? Yes, you go. Look at this opportunity. Go for it. Step on it. Go.
Yeah.
And God, I had to
Yeah.
I had to expedite my passport and went over. And that was really, again, that was probably one of the biggest steps where, sitting there and seeing where my career has gone. And that was kind of like well before that, but it was kind of like that foreshadowing to what I do and having that opportunity and living that life. And it was really cool. And, my dad was always, will always be a big part of that.
Yeah, no, it sounds like he was just such a positive, motivating force for you in your life, and I'm sure you still hold on to a lot of lessons today. You and your brother Kyle, and your sister as well, and everything you guys do. I'm sure it's great to have those memories, and of course, I'm sure you wish he would have got more time, but it sounds like the time you spent with him was real quality and very loving and educational and guiding you in your life and career.
He'll always be with me. He's always right there overlooking us, and I say that to my mom all the time. And yeah, he was a good one. He was a good one and everything. So it's good stuff. Everyone has their time, and it's unfortunate there, but he gave us what we needed to survive and thrive, and it's good stuff.
Yeah,
More and
man,
more, I keep
absolutely.
feeling I'm
So
looking more and more like him.
we get old fast, man. It's crazy.
Yeah.
We're talking about these stories from when we were in our early 20s, and what, you just turned 40, right? Last year, and I'm 38, or was it January you turned 40? I forget.
Well, it was so I actually this past January I turned 41. So, I don't
Yeah.
know if
Oh,
that's
41. Shit, I'm
should we be
behind the
bringing
year.
that kind of stuff up to on this kind of thing? Age is always one you keep off limits.
Yeah, I know you're not supposed to do that, but you know what? It's my show. I'll do what I want.
That's right.
And people, you know what?
Absolutely.
If you're not comfortable talking about age, you can turn it off.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. It's funny that time in life I feel like you're talking about is like that transitional time where you're going from so 2005, 6, 7 in there, you're getting into I guess you would have been getting into your late 20s, close to 30. I'm a couple years younger than you, but we're still, you and I were both going on that similar path where both getting into serious relationships and making those next steps. And we were in each other's weddings, which was awesome. I mean, just good times back then. I mean, that was still, to me, that was kind of like some of the most fun years, because you sort of shed those early, really crazy years, and it's a little bit more mature, yet you're still out having a good time and watching each other get married and have kids and buy houses and like all that fun stuff in that time period. And to me, those are like those years from probably like 25 to like 32 are just so much. There's so much going on, and there's so much change, and there's so much transition, but it's all, you're sharing it with people that you love, and we had some good times in those years as well, for sure.
Oh my God, yes. Yeah, obviously as you step up through the process there, you can have a little bit more fun as well in different ways on that level.
Yeah.
And yeah, we did a lot of good things, and it's always the friendships that you make and the things that expand through that. It's just so fun looking back and thinking about those times and how much fun we had and those experiences and the different things that we did and the trips we took and all that fun stuff that we then you get to that level, and it's just it changes the perspective a little bit on where you're going and everything, but you're still at heart, you're just having a good time and nurturing that relationship and becoming even greater friends, and it's a fun experience.
Yeah, for sure. And I got to say, one of those trips in there was your bachelor party down in the Atlanta, Georgia area. And don't worry, I'm not going into any kind of. We were well behaved young men, and but it was so fun because first of all, it was my first, maybe my only time like getting on a plane and going somewhere for a bachelor party. I don't think I've done that any other time. And we get down, and so we were flying from Philly, most of us, and we fly into Atlanta, and your Uncle Conrad and this maniac friend of his, this guy, I don't even know his first name. He's only called Rizzo.
Rizzo, yep.
This big Italian man with a cigar, and they pick us up from the airport. We might even have, I don't remember, was it like two vans or like one big van or something like that? I forget what it
They had
was.
their two cars, their two SUVs that were picking up because I think there was like 10 of us
Yeah,
that rolled down.
yeah. But there were coolers in those vans, fully stocked, ready to go. And I can remember right away being excited, but also being like, "Oh my god, I'm just gonna feel so bad after these couple days here," because I knew it was going to be a straight through party fest. But we go to Conrad's house, and I'd never been to Atlanta, or maybe I was once. I think I was once with KPMG, but I never had like actually seen like the neighborhoods around there. It's one of those things like we're on the East Coast, Greater Philadelphia. If you want some big giant house somewhere, like you're going to spend a whole lot of money,
Uh-huh.
and it's just going to whatever. But he's got this sick, sick, giant, classic Atlanta suburban house with a full, just like if you walked in, you'd think you were in a real bar in his basement. Card tables, ping pong table, like everything. It was a magical couple days. We had so much fun.
It's so funny when talking about when we were planning that trip and where to go and obviously the common ones, Vegas and those types of things would come up to mind, and it was like I'm chatting with my uncle, and I wanted to include my uncle as well into it was my dad's brother. He's my dad's my brother, and
Mm-hmm.
everything, and wanted to include him, and he was like, well, why don't you guys come down here? We could you know do a Phillies Braves game. It was over the summer, and we planned it. We went to a Phillies Braves game, and he had it was he's a big golfer. He had it right on the golf course. It was just beautiful. Everything, and the he had
Yeah.
redone the entire bar, and he had the I don't know if you remember, he had the bar top custom made where it was big enough for golf balls and baseballs, and it was the glass top, and he had
Yeah.
baseballs and golf balls and all his golf course tags all lined out underneath this bar, which was just it was so cool. It was awesome, and he hosted us, a bunch of Philly guys coming down there having a great
Yep.
time, and he hosted us well, and quite honestly, T, we vacation with them, and we'll see them once every summer and everything,
Yeah.
and every summer the story comes up, and talking about the bachelor party and the boys being down there, and people sleeping under the poker table and those types of things, and we were actually, for all intents and purposes, we were very well behaved through that entire process. Outside of the one, we were probably this close to all getting Phillies tattoos, and thank God that
Yes.
happened.
Yes. I wanted to talk about that. Yeah, I wanted to talk about that because your cousin Rich. It was your cousin Rich, right?
Yep, my cousin Rich. Yep.
Yeah. 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 Rich, we're sitting at the game, and I can just remember it was like towards the end, and which wound up being a, a really good game. Unfortunately, the Phillies lost by a Brad Lidge blown save. It was when bad Brad Lidge started to emerge, and he started blowing saves the year after they had won the World Series. But but I remember turning around at one point. He was kind of sitting in the row behind me. He was like, guys, here's what we got to do. He's like, we all, after this game, we all need to go get Phillies tattoos. And we're like, what are you talking about? He's like, no. Look, they'll be small. They'll just be the classic old school Phillies P. You can get it on your thigh if you want. Nobody's going to really see it. He's like, but we all need to remember this trip, this party. We got to do it. And he was like dead set on it. And some guys were starting to buy in, and I'm sitting there going, oh my gosh, what? are we going to do this? And we were close. We almost did it. Thank God. Somebody, I don't know who was, talked them out of it, but we didn't do it.
That was such a great trip. It was just being together and obviously the great friendships and family and it was just amazing. I couldn't have asked for anything more special and it was a great time.
For sure, man. It was such a blast, such a blast. And then, come home, get married. You guys are, I think, were you living in, yeah, you were still living in South Philly around that time, right?
Absolutely.
Yep, living the South Philly life. You guys had a great place down there. And so when was it when you first started kind of formulating the plan of, I think I want to go out on my own? And you were doing what you were doing at KPMG. You left for Ernst and Young for a while. You're at a big shop doing the expat foreign national tax returns, but was it something in your mind that just clicked and you said, hey, I don't necessarily need this big platform to do what I'm doing and I can go, start my own business? How did that sort of come to fruition for you?
Yeah, it was really I guess I would sit there and say it was more a progression. You sat there and you learn through your career and you get a lot of great experience and for the most part you're always told what to do. You're always told how to do it. You're this is the way you have to do it. This is the way we have to do it. And there were just so many things through that process. And prior to starting my own, I was with a smaller boutique firm that was doing the expats and there for something that was so small, I always thought there'd be a little bit more flexibility and kind of bringing those ideas to the table to improve and step out and doing those things. And at a certain point, it just always felt very restrictive. And you get to that point where you're sitting there, and if you're not ultimately happy and you don't have that flexibility to really drive something that you have that passion for, it starts to take its strain and it starts to take its toll. And I think in our industry, in the tax and auditing and accounting industry, I mean, I think a lot of times when you get to those, it's pre-partnership level, you're at that crossroads where you get a lot of times you get very burnt out, and it takes your toll. You're doing all that stuff.
Yeah.
You're then starting families. You're doing all that and getting that stuff going, and you're also have all those restraints and the pressures of being there. And at a certain point, it just got to a level and said, hey, I was developing these great relationships with clients, doing a lot of great stuff. And it just got to the point of saying, hey, I think I can do this better myself. I don't, I think I can tweak things
Right.
and bring my personal touch to things. And that's really what stepped it off. And, when you got to that level and things finally hit that crescendo and that apex, then it was finally, it was actually, like I said it earlier, it was the scariest decision I'll ever make. And it was the best decision I ever made. And I'll never forget sitting there telling Melissa, my wife, coming home and, it had just been one of those, the ultimate, okay, it had pushed me off the edge at one of those days. And I said, babe, it's time. Let's see what we can do. And she supported me 100%. She probably really give her a little truth serum. I'm sure she'd sit there and roll her eyes and say, "This kid's not going to do this." And but yeah, we did it. And I took that step, and I was, it's funny because I was that true, start fresh, start clean, start at zero step. I quit and I had 3 or 4 clients on the side that I was doing, and I really started from zero and just grinded it out and did what I wanted to do. And I from that aspect, it was one of those. It was so cool at that point in my career to step in and do other things. I had so much fun designing my website and designing my logo and setting up my technology platform. All those things that you don't do. It gave you that a different outlet to go with. And yeah, it was just the corporate years were amazing, and I learned a lot. And I look back on them much more fondly now than at the time with everything. And but I sit there now, and it's just they set that great foundation for me to take those next steps forward. And I'm definitely not looking back. And it's been I love what I do. I love the Faber tax process, and it's been a fun ride.
You know who else loves the Faber tax platform? Tony Giuliano and Jamie Giuliano, since you guys do our taxes. And everyone else out there should use you guys too. No, but
Appreciate the plug.
it's been awesome to have you guys, supporting us in that regard over the years. It's so great to have somebody you really like and you really trust doing it, because and it's funny. So, obviously I started in KPMG too, and having started in tax, I still have like a lot of my family and friends who don't know what the hell I do for a living that call me up and they're like, "Hey, I got a question on this." I'm like, "Dude, I have no friggin' clue. I haven't touched this stuff in forever." And then I just send them your way and then we're done, you know?
Those are it comes with the territory. I've gotten used to that, and the friends and family reach outs and those things. It comes with the territory. I love it. I think when you can give back a little bit and help out somebody on that level, it's always it's part of the process, and I always love it and everything that way. It's just fun. I mean, I think ultimately from my side of things, I'll always sit there and say, I know taxes are not the most exciting. I know most people probably have no interest in talking about those things. But to sit there and have the relationships and the people aspect, and I've always taken away the different cultures and the different perspectives that I've learned through my clients, and many of them have developed into great friendships. That it just that's the part that I just thrive on, and that's the part I just love. It's taking care of them and super serving them and being that resource. And I always sit there and say, I want to partner with my clients, and that was one of the things I felt like I didn't have the opportunity to do. It was very much I always like to call it an assembly line. They wanted to just pump out those tax returns and
Right.
just run through it, and now I get to bring that. I think that life goes into so many phases. Everything it's so fast paced and everything automated and all that kind of stuff. And I appreciate that those efficiencies. But when you're dealing with something as personal as someone's taxes and everything, having that personal touch and being available to them, having that call and doing those steps that you do, whether it's I have a client that I go out to lunch with every year after we finish his return, and he's local here in the West Grove area in southern Chester County, and he takes me to the little spots and all around, and it's so those things are so much fun that you go through, and it's something new, and like I'll let him order or whatever, and he comes up with something that whatever we did. We've done sushi and whatnot. It's just those opportunities. It's just those are the cool things that you go through in life and through the process, and it really is. It's a lot of fun, and yeah, Faber Taxes. It's here to stay, and we're just gonna keep rolling with it.
Hell yeah, buddy. Growing the empire. So when did Melissa decide to jump over? Because she was at SAP, I think, while you were sort of up and running with the business. And then she decides, she's going to make the change too. And what was that like? How much did you guys talk about that before it kind of came to be?
Yeah, I always so a little story. I mean, obviously Tony, but I met Melissa at KPMG. She started in the expat tax group in the Philadelphia office at KPMG. There, we met there, and when I came back to Switzerland, I came back from Switzerland. I actually ended up sitting right next to her, and that's kind of when the sparks flew and we hit it off, and took that professional relationship a little bit more personal, and it was awesome. So we
Cross
started
those lines in the corporate environment.
exactly, and so we started with that great professional relationship, and she subsequently she left KPMG and went into more of a corporate tax role. And I always when I did step off out on my own, I always, given what I do and given the expat side of things, I always knew I had an ace in the hole with Melissa and her experience. And I don't know if she ever if it was definite that she would join at whatever point, but she needed she was the corporate grind was getting to her. We had the young kids here, and just wanted a different perspective. And I said, hey, I definitely we were Faber Tax had grown at that point and had done some really good things, and we needed to, bring on to help. And she said, "Yeah, I'm in." And we're that classic, two folding tables in an office, trying to start something something special, and she sits right across, and we always had that personal relationship and or that professional relationship to start on, and then it's only blossomed further, and she's phenomenal. She's just she's the best. Quite honestly, I couldn't. I'm very lucky and blessed to have her along this ride with me and to be my partner in crime.
Yeah, she's fantastic. I think the tail end of my time at KPMG, she and I intersected a little bit, and right away I knew she was always down to hang out, and she was just so cool and really smart and really talented at what she did, and you definitely got yourself a winner there for sure. I'm sure you'll keep her around for a while longer.
Oh, that's for sure. That's for sure. Yeah,
No,
she's
will
my
she keep
person.
you around for a while longer? I don't know.
It's one of those. It's like that. It's that relationship. It's that perfect level there. I mean, no relationship is perfect, and Melissa and I always sit
Yeah.
there and say that. But we're so real, and she's
Yes.
that yin and yang. She grounds me, and she picks me up, and all those things. It really is. It's pretty amazing. I do like to gloat it out a little bit with her because it's just, I mean, it is really special. And also, she supported me through this crazy step that I took, and had been there from day one. And so now she's a big part of it as well.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And you mentioned that realness. I just think that's so if you have that in a partner, and I certainly have it with my wife Jamie. I mean, I think that's why we all get along so well. It's that same approach of being totally real. Like she's going to tell me when I'm being an idiot. She's going to tell me when I've done something really well. And she's going to lift me, like you said, lift you up when you need to be lifted up, and sometimes smack you down when you're being a jackass. So there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, we can each do it each way too, and do it in a way that's not never insulting the other person, or never putting somebody down, but it's more of like when you have somebody that you can be 100% authentic and genuine with. And believe it or not, there are some people that are married for 30 years that can't do that. There are some people like that. But when you can and when you have that, it's really all you need. I mean, it really is. That's it. There's
It,
nothing
it's
else to it.
it's very cool to sit there and you see when we're sitting here and going through the life cycle and talking about our early 20s and college and going up through and seeing this progression come through with your significant other. And yeah, it definitely is that. And I was very lucky to find that to and then just the way it clicks. It's one of those, and I tell her this all the time. That after that first date, I knew she was the one for me, and it was just one of those. It was classic. It was meant to be, and I'm very lucky for that.
You probably remember the first time I brought Jamie around the KPMG crew when she was we were 20 and 18, and I brought her to Tiernandag, and of course no ID check for either of us, but especially her. It was a solid 3 years under the legal drinking age, and back then she was coming off her crew days too, so she was like really in crew shape. I'm not saying she's not in good shape now. I'd never say that about my wife, but in the crew days, when you're burning all those calories, she got like a plate of wings and started going to town. And I think I said something to her about it, and she got she got all pissed off at me and like stormed out of there in front of the whole work crew. I got her back in. Everything was fine after that. But it was an early glimpse into what would be those early years, especially when you're young in a relationship where you got to figure things out a little bit. But it was pretty funny.
I'll never forget that night at Theater Dog having her come, and
Yeah.
we had such a good time even before the little
Yeah.
skirmish, and then after we continued to have a great time, and that was always the fun stuff. That's part of the process. It's the role that you go with.
It is, man. It is. Well, listen, man, you got it all set up here. I mean, you got Faber Tax is running strong. You got the beautiful house out in West Grove amongst the horses and the acreage, and you got a nice little place down in OC. Three beautiful kids. The wife. I mean, you're crushing it these days. I hesitate to ask, what's next, because it seems like you know, you're in a pretty good spot right now.
I am. Hey, you set that up very nicely for me, my man. Hey, it's been fun. It's to sit here and see where I am. I am very lucky. I have those things and have worked for those things, and we have that, and just building great relationship and everything with Faber Tax is really cool. It's definitely that rejuvenation in your career that has takes you and
Yeah.
propels you forward. And we'll see where things go. Hopefully, you'll see a Faber Tax sign on every corner in every city in the United States someday soon. But if we
Hell
stay
yeah.
small, that's perfectly fine as well. But yeah, it's we have a lot of great stuff. I love the area. It's so funny sitting there thinking about I deal with people who move around the world constantly, and for me,
Yeah.
I'm gonna stick here. I'm a Philly kid, and I grew up here, and I love my Philly sports, and I love my time in Ocean City. That's one of the greatest spots to just unplug and recharge and
Oh
just
yeah.
hang out listening to the waves and everything that way. I love it down there. We're always very close to you down there, and I had the time down there with you guys, and
Yep.
it's a cool life. I love it. It's been a fun ride. There's steps and turns and all the different things that you go through, but where it has me and where it's taken me, I cherish every moment. And there's a I always sit there and tell my kids, life is hard. Life is gonna it's gonna test you. It's gonna challenge you.
It
But in the
will.
long run, it's gonna be there. It's gonna give you a lot of great stories and a lot of great stuff through the process. And just cherish every moment and enjoy it. And yeah, just keep that smile on your face and keep doing your thing.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And it's all about perspective too. And you guys in the Faber family certainly have great perspective. It's like, even if things are going bad, I mean, you've run into a lot of bumps in the road along the way, but you know, when you have a great support system and you have a great family and friends, even when you have to get together for a crappy reason, like somebody passing away or some other thing, whatever, you still have those laughs, and maybe you're not going to be going over the top with it, but you still have those connections where it's like, okay, like you said, life's going to throw you curveballs. It's going to throw a lot of shit at you, but if you have the mindset to battle through and stay positive and focus on the things that are good, only good things can happen from there.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, and that's a good way to put it. I think and like I said, I think life isn't meant to be easy. Like, very few have that easy aspect of it. You have to work for it. You have to hustle for it. It's gonna give you those challenges. It's gonna give you those speed bumps. It's gonna give you those tough times. And those things, when you persevere and push through them, it only makes it better. It only makes it more satisfying. It gives you that extra boost. And there's moments where you sit there and you can have a tough conversation or a tough client interaction, and the next day I got someone sitting there and saying thank you for doing something, and you just ride that, and you keep trying to make the next day better. And I think I take that in on both ends of from a professional and personal level, and just try to bring it that way, and try to teach my kids to do the same, and do those things, and just live the best way, and cherish it, and enjoy it. And yeah, having those aspects, it's a lot of fun. It's taken me a lot of places, a lot of cool experiences, and it's connected me with a lot of great people. And Tone, you being one, it's a friendship for life, and it really has been incredible. And it's really a cool experience.
You got it, brother. Hey, man, I can't wait to see you guys. We're, probably a couple months away from getting out of this mess we're in, and as soon as we are, we'll be happy to shoot out that way or meet down the shore or out here, whatever it may be. But it'll happen, and we'll be having a lot of laughs, and we'll be having a couple cocktails, and life will make sense, and it'll all be good, and it's going to happen soon.
Absolutely. T,
All right.
I really appreciate the invite to share my story and give a little bit, and hopefully some entertaining entertaining stuff for everybody, and it's always great. I think it's one of the coolest things that I mean, I'll be quite honest, this is my first podcast experience, and I was so excited to have to be asked to come on and just give a little bit, and it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it, and really thank you so much for including me.
You got it, brother. Absolutely. Thanks everybody for listening. Maybe watching if we get this video out on YouTube. I don't know. This is exciting, but thanks everybody for tuning in, and we will see you next time on the No Code Podcast. Thanks again, Ian. Talk soon.